Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So I feel obliged to say after that introduction, I am DPS, right? Is that what I'm supposed to say? I'm DPS. Okay, so we're going to talk about hair today. Everything that you ever wanted to know, needed to know, didn't want to know, or afraid to know about how to take care of your hair. There's a lot of information to cover, so I'm going to try to get it all in. We have to do some of the less fun things first. You know, what hair is made of, how it's structured. That stuff is very basic science, but it really will help you, I think, to understand why some of the things happen to you that happen through the course of our life, okay? So, women in crisis. We're definitely experiencing a hair crisis in America, especially amongst women of color. I've been practicing dermatology for 12 years, and I regularly see women, probably hundreds every few months, that are complaining of losing their hair in some form or fashion, either very mildly or severely, the left versus the right picture. And they're kind of confused on what to do, what they can do and can't do. African American women are definitely at more risk for this problem than other ethnic groups, but it is not limited to women of color. Okay? Any ethnic group, really either sex, it can be affected by hair loss at some point in life. The major causes of hair loss are listed here. Genetics is probably the most common reason worldwide for people, men or women, to lose their hair. Styling is probably the #1 reason in women of color, specifically because we do so many more things to our hair than other ethnic groups might. Metabolic abnormality would include things like thyroid disease, vitamin deficiency, iron deficiency. Scalp disease, we're going to go over those. There are lots of inflammatory conditions that can affect the scalp and make it fall out that you may have no control over at all. And of course, physical and emotional stress. Can't forget that when it's real. One thing to remember about our hair is that it has no vital function on your body. So when you're thinking about it in relation to stress, it's going to be the first thing to go. Your body is always going to conserve what it needs most, and it's going to get rid of the extra, and the hair is the extra. So don't get, just kind of keep that in mind. Hair biology. There are lots of interesting things about hair that you should know. Each hair is associated with an oil gland. The purpose of the oil gland is to coat the scalp and to lubricate the hair. Each hair is also associated with a muscle. The purpose of the muscle is to make the hair stand up. When it's in its normal position, it's laying flat against the body, whether it's the scalp or other places on the body. And when the muscle contracts, it's meant to make the hair stand straight up, which is what causes goosebumps. There are about 5 million hairs on your body and 100 to 150,000 on your head. This means that you are always going to be losing some hair. You have enough hair on your head to always lose some. The way that hairs live is that they go through a cycle, they grow, they rest, they fall out, and they do this in a staggered fashion. So there's always going to be some hair falling out of your head. You can lose 100 every day. We'll get to that in a minute, and you will not go bald. Ever. Okay, so these are the hair cycles. Anagen is the active growth phase of the hair. It usually lasts about 2 to 7 years. And this is when the hair is big, well-developed, thick, actively growing. Anybody listen to country music? Do you guys remember the singer Crystal Gayle? Anybody remember her? She grew hair down to her knees or calves or something like that. Her anagen cycle was much longer than 7 years. Okay, it takes about 3 years to get to your shoulders. It takes about 5 years to get to the shoulder blades, maybe middle of the back. So she was, oh goodness, what would it be, 12, 13 years, something, very unusual. Most of us cannot grow hair that long, even if we try to. Okay? The next phase is catagen. This is a transition phase where the hair starts to regress a little bit. It stops growing. The body does not shed anything at this time, and this is a very temporary phase. It lasts only a few weeks. The next phase is telogen. It lasts also several weeks, and this is where the hair is ready to fall out. If you comb it, pull on it just a little bit, it's going to come out with that little tiny root on there. That's a telogen hair. It's not going to fall out on its own until the hair starts to grow again, which is the last picture where it's coming back to that growth phase anagen, and it's going to push that old hair right out. Okay? About 80 to 85% of hairs are in anagen cycle at any one time, 10 to 15% in catagen, 5 to 10% in telogen. And you can lose 100, like I said, 100 telogen hairs every day and never notice any thinning. Next, we're going to talk about the biology a little bit more. Hair follicles are everywhere except your palms and soles. Live roots grow dead hairs. This is why we can cut it, style it, do all kinds of things without it hurting unless we touch our scalp. This is important to remember when you're talking about nourishing the hair, feeding the hair, repairing the hair. There's only so much nourishing and feeding and reparation that can happen for dead structures, right? So you need to be thinking about your hair in such a way that you're preserving it for as long as you can, because once it's damaged, you may not be able to recover that section of the hair. You may have to grow new hair to fix whatever has happened to it. There are 3 layers to know about: the cuticle, the cortex, and the medulla. The cuticle is the outermost layer. It's composed of keratin. The scales, it's composed of scales that lie on top of one another that resemble shingles on a roof. When they're healthy, that's how they should look. They lay flat and they're cemented together by what's called the cell membrane complex. This is what a healthy cuticle looks like. When it's healthy, it's not letting things in or out. It's like glue. Those cells are put on top of each other like glue. The nutrients on the inside of the hair can't get out, and damaging things from the outside cannot get in. This is a healthy versus a damaged cuticle. See how those scales on the right are just sitting straight up? You can imagine that many substances could get in or out of this kind of a situation, right? Porosity. Porosity is what is controlled by the cuticle. And porosity means that things can get in or out. When the cuticle is laying flat, nothing can get in. When the cuticle is raised, everything can get in and out. When hairs are not porous, they're very shiny and they're resistant to chemicals and dyes. This is healthy. Absorption of hair products is limited and temporary when the hair is less porous. And chemicals permanently change hair by lifting this cuticle, making it look like it did on the picture on the right, allowing the chemical to enter into the hair itself, fix whatever it's going to fix or adjust whatever it's going to adjust, and then come out. This is an example of porosity. The low porosity side is the right. That hair is resistant to chemicals. The highly porous side is on the left. It is going to not be resistant to anything, really. And the purpose of this is to know that acidic versus alkaline products change where you are on this scale at any moment in time. Alkaline products are things like relaxer, okay? And the way that they work is to raise the scale, get in, do their job, get back out, but you can see how it's damaging things, right? If you move back and down, up and down this scale repeatedly, you will not end up at the right end of the scale anymore. You may start out at the right, and then you're going to move all the way to the left, and then you go back to the right maybe just 80%. And then you go all the way back to the left, and eventually you might end up right in the middle, but that's a little bit of damage that will last over a long period of time.